All right, so we got bow gameplay and breakdown by Ms. 5000 Watts.
I have just come back from San Francisco where I was invited to Capcom to play Monster Hunter Wilds. Now, we were pretty limited in our time that we could capture and play the demo, so I did purely focus on the bow because I wanted to come away from
2K.
that event
That's good.
feeling like I fully understood everything about the bow and I can talk about it confidently and I feel like I know what I'm talking about. So in this video, I'm going to take you through the bow changes and
Well, I'm a noob regardless, so I'm sure this will be... I'm sure I will learn something regardless. Also, I'm glad she did this, and I just wish more people, more English speakers were able to specialize like this. I know Rurikon's like the Gunlance guy, so I guess he's got his as well. But we've been looking at a lot of Japanese gameplay videos to kind of get well-rounded in some of the other weapons.
How it actually feels to play the bow in Rise, because we have a lot of changes. So please forgive me if this video ends up being really long. So first, let's go through what I think is the biggest change to bow in Monster Hunter Wilds, and that is the addition of
the Magic Archer. The addition of Magic Archer from Dragon's Dogma 2. Magic Archer. Yeah, no, that's a pretty big change that they gave them the Magic Archer aiming reticle.
In Monster Hunter Wilds, and that is the addition of the Trick Shot gauge. So this is the gauge that you'll see in the bottom right hand of the UI. It's the blue thing.
Oh,
and it's got
we're talking about
three
this.
sections of a gauge. Now, what you use this for is to apply coatings and to use your tracer shot. So first, let's go through the coatings. In the demo, we had access to power coating and poison coating. Both of them used the same amount of the gauge, which was one whole section. And you got 8 shots. So you apply a coating, you have 8 shots, and then you can reapply the same coating, or you can apply a different coating. You can, of course, switch your coating.
Let me back this up so I understand.
Tracer. The UI.
I don't understand. I didn't understand the coatings from other videos, so I'm going to try and understand that
3 sections
today.
of a gauge. Now, what you use this for is to apply coatings and to use your tracer shot. So first, let's go through the...
Okay, so you balance this between coatings and the tracer shot.
Coatings.
A guy in another video said, well, I'd imagine you'd just be blowing this on tracer shot all the time because the tracer shot's like cool.
In the demo, we had access to power coating and poison coating. Both of them used the same amount of the gauge, which was one whole section. And you got 8 shots. So you apply a coating, you have 8 shots, and then you can reapply the same coating, or you can apply a different coating. You can, of course, switch your coatings when you still have, say, 3 shots left on your coating. You're free to switch between them like you always were, but that's how it works. You have one whole section, you use it, you apply a power coating, you use one section, you apply a poison coating. Now, this changes the flow of combat a lot. And it also changes your hunter's finances. So let me explain. So the way that you're going to be using coatings is you're going to be using them in 8 shots. So you're going to be applying them much more often than you were before. So if you're unfamiliar with the bow in Monster Hunter World, Rise, etc., for power coating, you had 50 shots. And then you could take files and mushrooms with you on the field to make more, to be able to shoot more. And then, of course, at that point, you need to go back to camp and go make some more or pick up some more. So the way that this works instead is you're going to have 8. You apply coating, shoot 8 times, apply coating again, shoot 8 times, apply coating again, shoot 8 times. So you actually have access to
that's not
all
so bad,
of your coatings
right?
through the entire hunt. You don't have to bring extra stuff with you. You don't have to go back and pick up more. But you do have to apply it.
I love that, by the way. Again, I can't underscore. I'm such a fan of like replacing ammo with gauges.
Every 8 shots. So I don't know how some of you are going to feel about that. I can definitely see some people not enjoying that. Personally, for me, when I was playing it...
They definitely were given low-rank weapons against high-rank monsters. You think so? Bow is an elemental weapon. It will be OP.
It didn't feel like a worse or better change. It just felt different. It just felt like a different flow. It was now that I'm managing this gauge, I'm trying to keep it full all the time, and I'm trying to keep my coatings up all the time. And I will say that this gauge recharges really freaking fast. So the way that
Uh-oh.
you can charge
It
this
might be
trick shot
broken.
gauge
You guys
is
might be
by
right.
successfully hitting the monster. So it doesn't happen when you shoot your bow, it happens when the arrows actually hit the monster. The other way that you can recharge it is by performing a discerning dodge. This is essentially a perfect dodge. You do it just how you dodge with any other weapon. It's the same as when you're dashing and shooting with your bow. It's just
Yeah.
if you time it for when a monster is
We
going to
learned
hit
about
you,
this.
then it will be a discerning dodge. And as far as I can tell from painstakingly looking at my footage on the plane back home, I believe discerning dodge refills one section of that gauge. So if you're playing kind of close to the monster, you're pulling off discerning dodges, you're hitting them successfully, you are going to have this gauge available to you the whole time. At least that's how it felt to me in the demo. I never felt like I was unable to have enough juice in my gauge to apply a coating and perform a tracer. A lot of the time I was applying a tracer, applying a power coating, and I would just keep that up the whole time. Now you will see footage of me having a full gauge and not using it, and trust me, it annoys me as well. But the reason is because I was trying to test.
So bow, hammer, greatsword. I'm not convinced about the bow. It's interesting, but it just seems like a different kind of game that I don't know if I'd want to play. Like that kind of mechanics. I would try it, I think. Because it doesn't have ammo.
Everything that I possibly could about the bow in one hunt. So there are portions of the gameplay where I'm just trying to
Bow's fun, but you have to be in the mood for it. It seems like it. Yeah, it definitely seems like it.
see some numbers, I'm trying to test some stuff, and I'm not using the gauge. So please forgive me, but I will say from my experience in the demo, I believe you can have a coating up constantly as long as you're hitting the monster and you're doing discerning dodges. Now, how this affects your finances is that you don't have to buy coatings anymore. Now, they have mentioned through the Gamescom footage that gunners do have some ammo that just regens forever and they don't need to make it, but then they have special ammo that doesn't regen and they do have to make it or purchase it. I don't know how it's going to be for bow because power coating is obviously different to poison coating. One applies a debuff and one just increases your damage. And both of those regened, and I was able to apply them whenever I wanted. They regened, I had 8 shots, I was free to access them whenever the hell I wanted to. So I don't know if there's going to be a coating that you have to buy, but at least from my guess, based on what I played, I would guess that all of them regen. And by the way, you have access to exhaust coatings now. I did actually see that. I saw the coatings that you have access to, and it's essentially like Rise. You have all of them that you have in Rise. So I'm very happy about that because I really like exhaust coating, and I was sad that it wasn't in Wilds.
I don't know what
it's going to be in Wilds.
I don't know what exhaust
So
coatings are. Do you guys know what exhaust coatings are? Oh my goodness, what happened? The chat like froze for a second. Oh. I'm currently diving into both bow and longsword, so hopefully I can make them work. Sounds good. Yes, makes monster exhaust. Oh. Exhaust bow makes monster, or exhaust coating makes monster exhausted. Got it. It is all just gibberish to me at a certain point. Yeah, okay, I feel a little silly now.
I think that is.
I was thinking like exhaust, like the exhaust from like a car engine or something. I may have been live for a little too long.
Nice that I'm not going to have my entire farm and making stuff for me to make coatings, and I'm not going to be buying coatings really early on because I don't have a farm set up to make coatings. So I do like that. It just does come with the, I guess you could say, downside. I don't personally.
Psycho Troop says the Manzel only has like 20 hours in War lol. He's still baby. It's so true. It's so true.
Downside, I just think it's a bit different
So
for your
true.
flow
I'm a
of
baby.
combat. But it comes with the fact that you have to load them in increments of 8. So I actually think it's kind of cool because I feel like I'm a little bit more active with loading those coatings, and I really like that for bow. It feels like it's a much more integral part of my gameplay with the bow. Being on top of the gauge, managing it, and applying coatings constantly just feels cool. I personally like it. So I would be very interested in what you guys think about it. I do think there's a really weird thing with Wilds where when you watch it, it looks very different to when you're playing it, because I went into it feeling like it's just going to be like World pretty much, but it's actually quite different. There's a lot of changes. It's very
Really?
overwhelming. There's a lot of new stuff. So I think it is kind of hard to judge it by watching it, but I'm still curious what you think about it. I'd like to know your thoughts. Next, let's move on to the
If that's true, I think what it is, I'm going to guess what's different. And I don't know what I'm talking about, but, you know, I'm going to guess that what's different is like you have to have a much more open mind, like not in terms of like when you're in combat to like beyond, to be doing things beyond just normal combat. I didn't mean to pause on this girl's butt. Whoops. I swear I'm not a pervert. I think it seems like you have to have a much more open mind to like be doing non-combat things to deal damage to the monsters. Like that, the developers really seem to be hammering that home.
is what you think about it.
W.
I'd like to
Jeff
know your
pause.
thoughts. Next, let's move on to the Tracer, which is, again, another new thing for Bo. Bo has a lot of new stuff. The Tracer is
Will there be a
the
gathering
arrow that
hub?
you can shoot, which will then have all of your...
Maybe they'll let maybe the gathering hub will be the whole area.
To the Tracer, which is, again, another new thing for Bo. Bo has a lot of new stuff. The Tracer is the
I wanna be
arrow that you
Tracer.
can shoot, which will then
I'm
have
already
all
Tracer.
of your other arrows home in on that arrow. And initially, I didn't know how I was going to think about this. I know a lot of people felt like this is just going to be super OP, but after playing with it, I think it fits a really cool role for Bo.
Adamantium Pizza, thank you so much for gifting the sub. You're the best. You're awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, the Tracer is definitely the coolest part about the bow
Because when you're playing Bo,
that I've seen.
you're not really homing in on one part of the monster's body. Every time you shoot, you're kind of shooting the entire monster's body, which is great. But if you're wanting to focus on something like, for example, the claws, because you need a claw for something that you're making, this is going to allow you to have all of your arrows go into the claw. And when you couple that with the ability to make wounds by just repeatedly attacking a certain part of a monster, I think this is just really nice for allowing you to home in on one part of the monster's body to get those parts that you need. You do, of course, have the extra damage when it blows up, because you're shooting a tracer and then it blows up stuff. However, I'd actually be really curious about the damage numbers of if you're just dodge dancing, dash dancing, bow dancing. If you're just doing that, dash shoot, dash shoot, dash shoot, dash shoot, do you end up doing about the same amount of damage as applying a tracer and then all of your arrows going to that one spot? Because the downtime
The sneak attack was the first triple-digit number I saw from the bow.
of actually changing your arrow to a tracer, I feel like it's maybe 2 shots. I'll have to do the math. It's a lot of math. I'd have to do it. But I'm very curious because then it would
It's a lot of low numbers I'm seeing.
kind of fit into this thing of you want to use tracer when you really want to target a very specific part of the body. But you're
Maybe tracers for like beginners, beginners in like mid or beginning and mid game, and then or early and mid game, and then late game it's dash shoot, maybe.
not actually losing out on a whole lot of damage if you just play normally like you would in World. So I'd be very curious. Anyway, that's what got me really intrigued about the Tracer. And it definitely is cool to be able to jump around using another new move, which we'll go into in a little bit, to have all of your arrows go in there, and then you can do a Dragon Piercer and all of them go into there. And then my favorite ended up being doing 1,000 Dragons and all of those shots going to the Tracer.
Ooh,
so
that's a cool
I'm very
sounding
curious how
attack.
people end up using it. For me, it definitely felt like I would want to use it mostly when I'm really targeting a very specific part of the body. But again, your trick shot gauge recharges very fast. So I think you can absolutely have a tracer and a coating applied constantly if you want. Now, talking about that new addition, which is called the Flying Swallow
12
Shot. This is the
chat says, Shuan says 12 damage a minute. Basically, bow equals let it cook. Yeah, I guess it just kind of builds. 1,000 dragons is sweet when you get it off. Yeah, this is the part where like I get irritated about how things like this is why it's like irritating when it's like, oh, like, you know, what really matters is DPS, which is true. That's what really matters. But then it's like, I don't know. It's like you're gonna do like six hits of 7 damage each at a rapid rate, and just like, what you're gonna you're gonna tickle this Doshiguma to death. That's how we're gonna win. No, I think you need to bonk it with the hammer right on the skull. But I don't know anything. I'm a 20-hour Monster Hunter Andy.
the little leap that you saw the hunters do in the reveal trailer.
But that's just how I
And
feel.
It seemed to do pretty consistent damage numbers. I think it shoots out like 5 shots, I want to say. And they were pretty consistently doing 6 damage. It was 6, and they were orange numbers. So every time I did it, it seemed to do 6 orange numbers.
6? Wait. Did I read that right? 6? 6 whole points?
6 orange
I'm
numbers.
sorry. Sorry,
Now,
bow
this does
users. Sorry,
include
bow
the
users. I'm just
spot
kidding.
Of your little
I'm just
leap
teasing.
attack that you do, your little leaping melee arrow attack.
Adamantium Pizza says, 6 times 5 equals 30. Okay, nerd,
same
but
input
it's not cool. It doesn't feel cool. It doesn't feel grug-brained. It doesn't feel grug-brained and cool. It doesn't feel grug-brained and awesome and, you know, and all that.
Is that. So instead of leaping forward and meleeing with an arrow, you now do this leap that you can do. And you can do it in any direction.
They had something like this
Meleeing with
in
an arrow,
Dragon's
you now
Dogma.
do this leap
This falling arrows in Dragon's Dogma 2 and in Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, and I always missed with it every single time.
that you can do. And you can do it in any direction. You can jump backwards, you can jump right, left, forward. So it does give you a lot more maneuverability, which I really, really, really love. But it does take that spot. So if you want to spam something to get mounts, you can't really do that with bow anymore. The only way that you'd be able to do it is like jumping off a ledge and then pressing triangle to do the melee attack. Or when you jump off of Sacred, you can jump and do the melee attack as well. So when I go to PAX and play, I'm going to just ride Sacred and try and get a mount off with the bow so I can come back to you guys with that information. But I'm pretty sure that's going to be the only way that you're going to be able to mount. So you're not going to be able to do it without a ledge or Sacred. However, I don't think it's a bad trade because the leaping attack is really cool to be able to stay with the right spacing between.
Nah, it's fine. You're just watching. Just watch Bo doing speedrun when the game comes out. We're trashing on it, but yeah, Wombo is right. Wait for the speedruns, lol. Yeah, no, listen. That's all we can do. That's all we can do is have our little bravado because we know we're wrong deep down. So
You and the monster. So I really
I know I'm wrong, but shut up, nerd. You shut up.
liked it. I loved the leaping shot. Flying swallow shot. Sorry, that's what it's called. Next up that I want to talk about arc shot. This is familiar yet different because in World it would rain rocks, which would do KO damage.
Oh.
In Rise it would put down like a little circle that buffed you. But in
Oh.
Wilds, it rains down arrows on top of the monster. And some of those arrows will stick into the monster. Now, I love this. I think this is a fantastic
According to my calculations, it's probably not good for my streaming future to like be playing very mentally taxing cerebral games like Monster Hunter and then being like, oh, okay, nerd. According to my calculations, I probably shouldn't be playing a game that's largely based on calculations and then being like, according to my calculations. It's probably a great way to alienate myself in my own niche.
change for bow. By the way, I did test that if you do the arc shot, those arrows do not home in on the tracer arrow. So now you know. That's something I was trying to test, and now we know. But I love this change for arc shot because this works with your focus attack, where you are.
What was
love
this?
this change. Now you know. That's
Let me back this
arrows
up
do
just a
not-
second.
By the way, I did test that if you do the arc shot, those arrows do not home in on the tracer arrow. So
Yeah.
now you know. That's something I was trying to test, and now we know. But I love this change for arc shot because this works with your focus attack, where you are doing the big circle and it's targeting different parts of the monster. So you can actually target those arrows that stick into the monster if you want to. So you can use your focus attack to target those things as well. So I personally love this change to arc shot. I think it's much more useful.
So you can rain the arrows down with arc shot, and then you can use the focus attack
Attack to target those things as well. So
to target those arrows. Oh,
I
yeah.
personally
See, like,
love this change to arc shot. I think it's much more useful.
is that what they're targeting with that? So, okay. Interesting.
Now, talking about focus, because I think that's a good time for us to talk about it. As a bow player, you're pretty much in focus mode the entire time because the way that you go into focus mode is with L2, and the way that you aim a bow is with L2.
Oh.
So you're basically in focus
fair
mode
enough.
the entire time. Now, to go into focus mode, you press R1, and that is what's going to make your character target different parts of the monster. So you can target tracers. You could also target arrows that are stuck in the monster from arc shot. And if you do that, your character will just target them, and it will shoot a bunch of arrows that will land on the monster and do some damage.
And now, what is this
Target
called?
stuck in the monster from arc shot. You could also target arrows that.
Let me-
So you can target what's going to make your character. Now, to go into focus mode, you press R1, and that is what's going to make your character target different parts of the monster. So you can target tracers. You could also target arrows that are stuck in the monster from arc shot. And if you do that, your character will just target them, and it will shoot a bunch of arrows that will land on the monster and do some damage. However, if you want to do that big focus finisher that does a ton of damage and is really dope, you can only do that when the monster has wounds on its body. So if you do it without a monster having wounds, you just do this targeting and then you shoot it. However, if they do have a wound, you do the targeting, you shoot it, and then you do a follow-up kind of dragon piercer attack after it to blow everything up and destroy wounds, which is really cool. So there's a couple different interesting ways to blow, and then you do. However, if
Yeah, it seems like so you're using the arc shot for the synergy, and you can target that, but then you really need to like make wounds happen. I'm trying to figure out where you would put the wounds. What are these numbers in my chat? I don't exactly know what's the point of rain of arrows. I think it's because you can target them when they stick in the monster.
they do have a wound, you do the targeting, you shoot it, and then you do a follow-up kind of dragon piercer attack after it to blow everything up and destroy wounds, which is really cool. So there's a couple different interesting ways that you can use your focus attack. You can use it to shoot a bunch of arrows into the monster, which I think will actually be really, really good for applying status effects, especially if you've hit a lot of arc shot arrows into a monster, because that's going to be a lot of...
Is arc shot different from rain of arrows? Wait, am I stupid? Hold on.
Really, really good for applying status effects, especially if you've hit a lot attack, which is really cool. So
They're the
there's
same.
a couple
Okay.
different interesting
We're just
ways
calling
that
it
you
that.
can use
Okay.
your focus attack. You can use it to shoot a bunch of arrows into the
This
monster.
process right here, it just
You
seems
bl-
it
and
seems
then-
that seems
however,
like a
without-
lot of setup. You have to really know that. So they're not just giving it to you for free.
A monster having wounds, you just do this.
Like, listen to this part right
In the
here.
monster from
Let's
tracers.
listen to this again.
You could also target arrows that are stuck in the monster from arc shot. And if you do that, your character will just target them, and it will shoot a bunch of arrows that will land on the monster and do some damage. However, if you want to do that big focus finisher that does a ton of damage and is really dope, you can only do that when the monster has wounds on its body. So if you do it without a monster having wounds, you just do this targeting and then you shoot it. However, if they do have a wound, you do the targeting, you shoot it, and then you do a follow-up kind of dragon.
So they're doing it right now because this one has a wound. So they're doing the arc shot to stick the arrows in. They're doing damage on these arrows, I guess, just for the fun of it, because they're also targeting the wound in the focus mode.
Piercer attack after it.
And then this is the follow-up Dragon Piercer attack that happens after they've hit the wound.
Blow everything up and destroy wounds, which is really cool. So there's a couple different...
So that combo becomes available only in those circumstances. Least calculated bow gameplay.
Interesting ways.
That's kind of crazy. That's kind of high level.
Focus attack. You can use it to shoot a bunch of arrows into the monster, which I think will actually be really, really good for applying status effects, especially.
And how much did that? I'm sorry to keep rewinding, but I'm just trying to understand.
Attack.
So let's look at the damage that we're dealing with. Okay, 7s near the wound.
To blow everything up and destroy wounds.
That's a lot of damage. I don't know. That's kind of a lot of damage. 60, 15, 11, 11, 11, 11, 12, 12. It's over 100 and fast. Bow's the complete opposite of hammer users. One has a PhD and the other are caveman. Hey, hi, I'm caveman. One single greatsword hit. All right, all right. Touche, Shuan.
Wounds, which is really cool. So there's a couple different interesting ways that you can use your focus attack. You can use it to shoot a bunch of arrows into the monster, which I think will actually be really, really good for applying status effects, especially if you've hit a lot of arc shot arrows.
Caveman Unga Bunga feels great though. That's what I'm saying.
A lot of arrows hitting all at once. So I think that's going to be really good for status application. Or you can only use it when they have a wound to blow up a wound and get rid of that wound and do a ton of damage. So it's really versatile in how you use the focus attack, which I personally really, really, really loved. The other thing that is a little bit different but familiar is Dragon Piercer. You essentially have a normal Dragon Piercer, which has a longer animation, and then you have an instant Dragon Piercer, which...
Dragon Piercer's the name of my band, by the way.
Is significantly faster. So I'll try and show you these differences here. In order to...
We play like symphonic, alternative, dark wave, gothcore metal with neoclassical influences. It's pretty dope, but you probably wouldn't get it.
The instant Dragon Piercer, it says that it has to be part of a combo. They just mean that you're shooting and then you go right into a Dragon Piercer. The Dragon Piercer that I did as part of a combo was much faster than the one that you would do if you haven't targeted anything yet and you're just like doing a Dragon Piercer. And the last thing is Thousand Dragons.
Oh, so so if you pull, you're rewarded really heavily for pulling off the combos because it's an even faster Dragon Piercer. Interesting. They don't explain the status for both since coatings are gone.
Which is pretty much the same as it is in Iceborne. However, you're not using slinger ammo to shoot it.
Well, the coatings are still here. You're using it through this gauge. They talked about it earlier, I think.
So you're not getting like pierce.
Let me back up here what she said here.
And the last thing is Thousand Dragons, which is pretty much the same as it is in Iceborne. However, you're not using slinger ammo to shoot it. So you're not getting like piercing slinger ammo, for example, and then shooting that at the monster. You're just shooting arrows at the monster. But the interesting thing about this is it can trigger tracer and other arrow detonations. So I wasn't able to take the time to fully test this because from my understanding of what that could mean is if I use arc shot and there's arrows stuck in the monster, Thousand Dragons could also and there's arrows stuck in the monster.
Okay, that's kind of a lot of damage. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 40, pushing 70, 80. That Dragon Piercer is actually really cool. Yeah, I think so too.
Thousand Dragons could also explode those, I think. I will test it as soon as I possibly can. But I think that's what that means. Also, a really interesting thing that I noticed about Thousand Dragons is if you
She shot that tracer straight down that monster's throat. Lol. Did she? I was too busy. Jeff is calculating WTF, never before seen. My brain's steaming, guys.
I will
It's like
test
in
it
the
as
anime.
soon as I
It's-
possibly can. But I think that's what that means. Also, a really interesting thing that I noticed about Thousand Dragons is if you dodge at the right time after using Thousand
You have to
Dragons,
be careful, math.
you can get out of the animation.
Fun fact. Uno reverse card for you. Here's a Uno reverse card for you. Whoosh, this is me playing an invisible Uno reverse card. I used to be a math tutor at a university. Yeah.
Right away.
It's not that I can't. It's I choose not to. I sheathed the sword like a samurai. Yes. I sheathed the sword like a samurai. I sheathed my math skills like a samurai.
Way. After using Thousand Dragons, you can get out of the animation right away. However, sometimes
Secret
I
nerd.
noticed that I was stuck in the after animation of like, oh god, I just shot Thousand Dragons. I'm so exhausted. I was stuck in that animation for a little bit. So I think there is something to dodging at the right time after using Thousand Dragons to not be stuck in place for a long time, which is a really kind of just neat skill expression. So
That's
that
interesting.
is the new stuff with bow. It's kind of crazy because
Yeah.
it is a familiar weapon. You still have your kind of dash dancing arrow playstyle, but you have so much other stuff going on. You're working with a gauge that you're recharging and using. You're leaping and doing those shots. You're adding tracers. You're sticking arrows into the monster. You're detonating all of it. It's a lot going on. There's a lot for you to manage and work with, but which personally I absolutely love. I think it just adds a bit of complexity to the bow in a really cool
Just
and
a
fun
bit.
way. Now, side note, this is just something that I wanted to bring up.
It is
When
cool.
you
It
play
hooked
the
me
story
in
mission
a
in
little.
the demo, Alma, which is our new handler, she will ask you some questions to try and figure out or help you find which weapon you're going to enjoy. So I was, of course, wanting to use the bow. I wanted her to give me the bow. So she asks what kind of playstyle you want. So I picked a ranged playstyle. And then the next question was really interesting because I can't remember exactly what it said, but Alma was like, do you like to play really close range to the monster and use maneuverability to get out of harm's way? And I was like, that sounds like it's the bow, and it sure was. So I definitely think that Capcom is trying to incentivize bow users to be basically right next to the damn monster, using your discerning dodge to get your charges back and making sure all of your arrows are hitting the monster. Another thing that I also noticed is that I think the range on bow is a little lower than in World. I might be mistaken, but it kind of felt like when I had close range coding on, it kind of felt like that all the time, but not super extreme because there are some moves that will still hit the monster from really far away, like your focus
That is a
attack
cool
will,
shot.
will lock onto the monster and hit them pretty far.
The
But
the
yeah, I
dragon
think in
piercer is
general,
pretty cool.
if I'm just using my regular shots, it felt like I had less range. Again, it's not super scientific because I only had one hunt to test stuff. But just from using bow for God knows how many hours, at least it felt to me that I was out of the desired range faster than I am in World.
Wait, what was that?
To me, that I was out of the desired range
Oh, it's just the arc, the angle of the arc of that looks really cool.
faster than I am in World. It felt more like I was using close range coding. So that is my experience with the bow.
So they are forcing you to get up closer. It seems like. It's also, I think chat said like, our like bow stuff or bows are like it's not real that it's a distance weapon. It's up close. I also noticed on the right you are given a monster material immediately whenever you break a wound. Oh, okay. That's good. That's good. Extra incentive, I guess. This wound system is going to be critical, it seems. The ranged weapons are all pretty close range.
Monster Hunter Wilds. I freaking love it. I love it so much. I love the access to coatings. I love the management of the gauge. I love the extra maneuverability. Our freaking sneak attack. I didn't even talk about sneak attack. The sneak attack does so much damage. You basically do the first part of aerial aim. It did like 129 on a sneak attack.
So that is the sneak attack confirmed, then the jump up shot that we've seen.
And I was seeing the greatsword do like 40. So I don't know what that's about.
Damn, shade cast at greatsword users. Bow needs element. It's only showing 30% of its power here. Yeah,
I love
that's
it.
kind
I
of
love
crazy.
it so much. I will definitely play the game again at PAX and give you as many thoughts as I possibly can and try and test more stuff. If there's anything that you would like me to test about Bow at PAX, please let me know in the comments section. I will be streaming on Twitch and probably every day talking about Wilds at the beginning of a stream. So if you want to come and ask me questions directly, feel free to. And yeah, I think that's everything. Oh my goodness, it's so much. It's so overwhelming. It's so familiar yet so new. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Hit a subscribe if you want to see more Monster Hunter and more Bow stuff. And bye.
Wow, that is that was a lot, but I hung in there. That is definitely totally different than the hammer, and which I'm playing, and I'm a Monster Hunter noob, so that was a lot. Wow, bow nerds eating good in Monster Hunter Wilds. Bow cells, I'm feeling pretty good, fellow bow cells. Bow cells on top, it seems like. So I can see this Steve coming out of Jeff's ears. I'm like in the. Have you guys ever seen Kaguya-sama Love Is War? I'm like season 1, episode 1 of that. I need some sort of sugar to, like, you know, supercharge my brain after that. Damn. But no, that was interesting. I'm not touching the bow at all in Monster Hunter World. I'm gonna wait. I'll wait till Wilds, where this ammo nonsense has been removed, and we can just learn all this crazy, complex stuff. It's interesting that you can get that intellectual with it when on the other end it's bonk o'clock with the hammer bros, us hammer bros over here. So good video. I appreciated the explanation.